Right. Let's get a little bit of knowledge. Just a disclaimer, not diagnosing. I'm just sharing what I know. Sharing from a book, The Body Keeps Score, and some of my own personal experiences and stuff like that. Maybe some suggestions if I'm feeling brave, but then rereading this book, so just going through. I'll share my notes, thoughts, feelings. It starts out with a veteran named Tom, but I like how the author says one does not have to be a combat soldier or visit a refugee camp in Syria or the Congo to encounter trauma. Trauma happens to us, our friends, our families, and our neighbors. As human beings, we're an extremely resilient species. Since time immemorial, we have rebounded from our relentless wars, countless disasters, both man-made and human, both natural and man-made, and the violence and betrayal in our own lives. But traumatic experiences do leave traces, whether on a large scale or close to home, our families' dark secrets being imperfectibly passed down through generations. Ooh, generations felt that one. They also leave traces on our minds and our emotions, on our capacity for joy and intimacy, and even our biology and immune systems. And it says trauma doesn't just affect you, it also affects the people around you, your community, your family, your friends, and such. A lot in here. And trauma, by definition, is unbearable and intolerable. Most victims, combat soldiers, and SA survivors become so upset that they try to push out the experiences, acting as if nothing happened. And that just takes a tremendous amount of energy to function in that way, carrying the memory of terror at the same time of utter weakness and vulnerability. Child. So although we all want to move past trauma, there's a part in our brain that is devoted to ensuring our survival. And it's okay, it's like fight or flight, right? That's how we have survived this far as a species, but it gets to a point where that type of thinking is just no longer serving you. Like, I like to say, I love throwing myself a pity party, but you can never overstay your welcome, right? And so I'll be the first to boo-hoo for myself, and then I just know, gotta persevere, gotta keep it pushing, keep it moving, but there are traces that remain, right? And it's important to acknowledge that. And then it goes into the new disciplines of neuroscience, the study of how the brain supports mental process, developmental psychopathology, the study of the impact of adverse experiences on the development of the mind and brain, and interpersonal neurobiology. So, neuroscience, the study of how the brain supports mental process, developmental psychopathy, is the study of the impact of adverse experiences on the development of the mind and the brain, and interpersonal neurobiology is the study of how our behavior influences emotions, biology, and mindsets of those around us. Woo! So research has shown that trauma produces actual physiological changes, including the recalibration of the brain's alarm system, an increase in stress hormone activity, and alterations in the system that filters relevant information from irrelevant. We now know that the behaviors of the traumatized are not the result of moral failings or signs of lack of willpower or bad character. They're caused by actual changes in the brain. Yeah, so the next time you want to try to judge someone for the things that we tend to judge people for, I think in Winnipeg, it's easy. Well, what I've noticed, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'll take any and all opinions, is the judgment on the Indigenous populations when a lot of, especially newcomers, I'll say, newcomers have no idea the history of residential schools and all that, right? So you may see someone using substances, trying to cope, and go right into judgment without ever even wanting to learn, you know? And it's super, super easy. I remember my uncle saying he had no idea that there were Indigenous people in Canada. Imagine, this was maybe like 5 years ago. Like, he thought Canada was, like, y'all have done a good job. He thought Canada was for, was mostly white people. And so when we came, obviously, we did as much Indigenous kind of like taking in of Indigenous culture as we could. But that was really, really, really shocking to me. And so, as you can imagine, if someone was coming to a place where you think of it as like a kind of never eat soggy wieners, like not, there's Eastern Europe, Western Europe, but maybe an extension of Europe into the West even more. And then you see a group of people with a darker complexion, because even us, people with dark complexions, I don't know, I've noticed that we still sometimes tend to be a little bit harsher to those with dark complexions. And by dark complexions, it could be a little bit lighter than your own, but you know, just like non-European. Because I don't know, I wonder if people would have the same judgments if they went to like Ireland and saw a bunch of Caucasian people using substances to cope with what they dealt through with the potato famine, right? Interesting thought, but yeah. Let's try not to judge because we're all battling our own ish every single day. But it's important to acknowledge that there's an actual like physiological change that happens when people go through trauma. So, however people decide to cope is not for you to judge. If you can be a friend, be a friend, but definitely don't be that a-hole who's making things worse. Just save it. If you ain't got nothing nice to say. We can now develop methods and experiences that utilize the brain's own natural neuroplasticity to help survivors feel fully alive in the present and to move on with their lives. Neuroplasticity, essentially the brain always wants to get back to equilibrium. The brain, body, mind, all of that. Like, your you wants you to be the best you, you know? Your body wants your body, mind, and everything. Your ancestors want you to be like optimal, right? So that's what the brain's always trying to do. And so neuroplasticity is actually the ability for the brain to adapt, to change, create new pathways, neural pathways. And there are fundamentally 3 avenues. You know what I'll get? I'll get one of those whiteboards. And so I'll start like writing as we go. How does that sound? Next week. Okay. 1, top down by talking. Reconnecting with others and allowing ourselves to know and understand what is going on with us while processing the memories of trauma. So that's like talk therapy. 2, taking medicines that shut down inappropriate alarm reactions or by utilizing other technologies that change the way the brain organizes information. And so if you wanted to see like a psychiatrist, there's antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications. And don't judge, don't shame. Everybody's gonna need something different. It could be a combination, it could be one or the other or neither if you're extremely lucky, but absolutely no judgment. I definitely used to lean more into the yoga, holistic, natural path. Honestly, like whatever ever works. Like whatever works, man. We're all just going through it and trying to survive. So if you need medication to just help you function as you, then that's fine. There's been moments where I myself had to take stuff because I just could not. And thank God I have a really, really good friend from childhood who's in medicine, and trust them with absolutely everything. And when I was really, really going through it, reached out, got a prescription, and was able to talk through it, talk about my concerns, talk about side effects and any of that, and just having that support and my friend taking the time to really walk me through it. Like, I got through it, and it was a really, really dark time. We could talk about that another time if you guys are really curious and have questions, but I don't know if I can say that the medication is necessarily what got me through, because I got prescribed it, then I carried it around for maybe like 3 months, and then something else traumatic happened, and I was really, really shaken, right? So I don't know, but I do know that the combination of the medication and the yoga, whew, it did wonders, and I'm grateful. So shout out to homie, you know who you are, appreciate you. And 3, bottom up. Excuse me, not an ad. Just like bubble all the way from my belly to my chest. I guess it's doing its job. Oh, not an ad, not an ad. Bottom up. By allowing the body to have experiences that deeply and vicariously contradict the helplessness, rage, or collapse that result from trauma. Okay. Bottom up. So I guess that would be like, I'm not too sure. I'm not going to read too much into it. I'm sure they explain it a little bit more. I'm not really fully remembering, and I don't want to make shit up for you guys. Not fair. So yeah, it's just saying that most people require a combination of the treatments for things to really work. And yeah, um, the author says they wrote this book to serve as both a guide and an invitation to dedicate ourselves to facing the reality of trauma, to explore how best to treat it, and to commit ourselves to society, to using every means we have to prevent it. So this is the book, like not we all, that was recommended for yoga teacher training. You know, a lot of therapists and other healers use it. I also have a small workbook which we'll be working through, and I'll be asking questions and posing journal questions and stuff like that for you. And so yeah, I will create a Discord, a group where we can support each other, share resources, just talk. If you're having an emergency or need someone, we'll be doing that. And then I guess I'm trying to use more like definitive language. I'll also be going live. Yeah, I'll do the pre-recorded and then also a live session like this where we'll do yoga, and then we'll do a talk, and I'll answer some of your questions. I think I'll do the live once a month, and then I'll have the recordings for you every single week. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate your time and energy always. I bow to thee, or namaste.